Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And in this video, I'd like to go over a few of your questions concerning our COVID response, but more specifically, the confusion on COVID rules as set out by Boris Johnson's government. Set out, but not understood, you understand. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So the first one I thought was really interesting. Not the sort of statement in itself, but what it sort of meant. So just to add context to this, so I did a video talking about some prominent rules breaking, COVID rules breaking across the political spectrum. There was some rules breaking on the part of an SNP MP, a Labour MP, as well as the father of the Prime Minister, so on the Conservative side there. And someone saying here, when I talked about the different, they all broke different rules. And they were all different levels of naughtiness as I was describing it. Someone here saying, it's not a law, it's a rule. He broke a rule, not a law. Now, there's a couple of things about this. There's a few things about it. First of all, laws are rules. Not all rules are laws, admittedly, but all laws are rules. But then they were saying here, he broke a rule, not a law. Now, it doesn't say who they're talking about. There were two male rules breakers that I described, Jeremy Corbyn and Stanley Johnson. And it's not clear which one they're talking about. However, I do have to say both of them, in fact, all of the cases I brought up in that video were not just against guidance, rules. They were all against the law. And it doesn't matter whether they were talking about the Jeremy Corbyn or the Stanley Johnson one. You have to wear a face covering in shops. In fact, everyone does now, but certainly customers had to before, unless they were exempt. And Stanley Johnson is not exempt. And that is the law. That is not a guidance, a rule. The same for the so-called rule of six, where you are not allowed more than 6 people inside a home. For example, there's lots of other situations you're not allowed more than 6 people either. But in this particular case, it was in a home, eating dinner around a table. You're not allowed more than 6 people unless they are all members of the same household. So, and that is the law as well. That is in the coronavirus regulations. So what I found interesting about this is not just, oh, there's someone here who's wrong. Lots of people post on my channel that are wrong. But it's the fact that this person genuinely thought there was some distinction, genuinely did not believe that it was against the law. I have to say it is. In fact, they were both investigated by the police. I mean, if it was not against the law, the police would not have touched it. They've got enough to be dealing with. One was fined, one was not, I gather. We'll let you guess which one if you didn't know. But what's interesting, yeah, this person doesn't know that. And then you think, so, and this is the problem we're trying to talk about in the first place, isn't it? People do not know. Because what you have is, you have the law. Let us be honest, although when new laws come out that are of interest to me, and of course the coronavirus regulations are of, great interest to me, not just professionally, but, it's how we have to govern our lives now. So I read the legislation and then I make sure I follow legal experts in case there's something I'm missing. I'm not legally trained. And a lot of people do not. So they get what's the law say I have to do from, let's face facts, the media. But on top of these, there are also guidelines where you should do this. But it's not the law, but you should do it. But that's also reported in the media. So if you're getting your information from the media, how do you tell the difference between a law and just something you should do, but you don't have to? There's no legal imperative for you to do. You're just a dickhead if you don't, but it's not illegal to be a dickhead. That sort of thing, Anyway, on to the next question. It says, oh, like your work, Phil. Well, thank you very much. It says, enjoy your even-handed views and opinions. I mean, I try to be fair. I wouldn't say I'm even-handed. I'm going to be honest. I don't mind people accusing me of bias. It's in the channel title. But I try to be fair. Anyway, it says, except when talking about Boris, but who can you blame you for that? Perhaps I'm much kinder to Boris than I could be, I have to say. I have to be able to get these videos through the algorithm. Perhaps a very naive question, but surely a complaint can be made to the police if they pick and choose who they charge for these breaches of the rules and who they let off. The law is the law and all that stuff. Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem is it's not really going anywhere. There was even the case of a former prosecutor, a senior prosecutor, not Keir Starmer on this particular case, who was a regional prosecutor for the Northwest, I think, somewhere in the north of England. And he was actually making a formal complaint about the fact that Durham police seemed to let Dominic Cummings off. You know, although the police gave out a statement that basically said, using very careful language, yes, Dominic Cummings broke the law, but we're not going to do anything about it. The specific complaint from this former prosecutor, whose name I forget, I'm afraid now, it's not exactly a household name, was that if it was just an ordinary person, you would go, no, okay then. You know, you haven't been fining people for first offences in general, all right then. However, because of the nature of letting Dominic Cummings off and the fact that it means that people in the wider public are therefore going, well, if the rules don't apply to him, why should they apply to us? It was in the public interest to properly prosecute that case, is what he was arguing. It was in the public interest to make it clear that he'd broken the rules. And if he wouldn't admit to breaking the rules and the government wouldn't admit that he broke the rules, then the police had to do it unequivocally. And that is a former senior prosecutor. That is someone who absolutely knows their way around the law. They haven't been able to get any joy from that. And if they can't do that, then ordinary members of the public can't. I'm not saying don't make complaints. I would always say if you have got a grievance, absolutely make a complaint. You know, if you are not satisfied with the way the police have handled something, for example, the Dominic Cummings case or the Stanley Johnson case, you can complain on the basis that, you know, in the public interest, they should have made it clear that this person broke the rules and should not have let them get away with the ridiculous excuses. Absolutely. All I'm saying is, although it may be interesting in the future for a freedom of information request to ask the police how many letters did you get condemning your actions here for any future inquiries, beyond that it's probably not going to change anything. But you can absolutely make a complaint. But people have, and nothing has changed. Next question. It says, sorry, by the way, if you can hear banging, and not a lot I can do about that. Some construction work going on next door. It says here, a co-worker looks like not feeling well. What should I do? Should I risk my job by refusing to interact with the co-worker? This is a genuine dilemma, I think, that a lot of people are going to have. Now, obviously, I don't know the specifics of the nature of the work. How easy is it for you to just say, look, I should... Because, you know, I don't know the exact scenario here. This could be a scenario where, you know, the co-worker cannot afford to isolate or get a test and be found positive because statutory sick pay isn't enough. I have an immense amount of sympathy for that. At the same time, here's the other side of it. They're in there potentially infecting others. What do the others do? Are they going to say to the... I mean, in this case, the implication might be that the bosses are also aware that this person has some... and when I say not well, I'm guessing it's not just a cold. I'm guessing we are talking about symptoms that could be COVID. I think you do need to... See, it depends on the nature of the work. Like, if it were possible for me in a situation like that to just not work closely with them. In the first instance, of course, I would want to wear, you know, a face mask and a visor. The visor, remember, we now know from research, doesn't work for preventing... You don't just wear a visor on its own, because that doesn't prevent you spreading an infection. The face mask is the best way to do that. But the visor can protect you from catching droplets on your face that may be infected. So face mask and visor, assuming the work allows for that, depends on the nature of the work. In theory, of course, what you should do is report them. But again, we understand that you wouldn't want to do that. You know, social reasons. Yeah, I would tend to say, look, you know, if the managers know about it, then you can be perfectly open with them and say, look, we know this is going on. We don't want to be a dick, but at the same time, I don't want to catch it and spread it to others. So we need to do something here. And if the managers don't know about it and your co-workers are all keeping it to themselves, you do need to sort of say, right, well, we need to manage this as best we can. If you don't want to force them to isolate because they can't afford it, then you do at least need to maintain your distancing, face masks, visors, I would say, if you can do that. That's my vote. I mean, I'm not an expert. That's just what I would do. You know, trying to walk the fine line between COVID responsibility and social pressures. And then the final one here is really to do with the vaccine, how we get out of this mess. But I do need to nip this in the bud. I did do a video on this. It says in the Times yesterday, they were reporting that a vaccine will be ready by December and fully administered to the entire population by Easter. There has been progress with the Oxford vaccine. What do I think? I'll tell you what I think. I am confident that there is zero chance that... Right, okay. First of all, there is no chance. I don't have to say confident about that. There is no chance of a vaccine being fully administered to the entire population ever. Never mind just by Easter, ever. There are people who won't. Okay, and the government will not force people to take it. They won't even consider it unless the take-up was just not high enough. And even then, they'll do it slowly. They won't just blanket make everyone take it. But let's say in terms of fully administered to the willing proportion of the population, and bear in mind this, we're not just talking about anti-vaxxers here. A vaccine produced and ready by December, which by the way, at the moment is not seriously on the cards, but if it were, a vaccine ready for December, let us say, will not be fully licensed. It's been tested and the tests so far are encouraging, but it cannot possibly be fully licensed because that takes years. To be absolutely certain, you need much wider testing, which we haven't got the time to do. So we sort of know that the first vaccine to come out may have a few question marks over it. That doesn't mean to say it will be unsafe, but there may be, it may not be as effective as would be the case if we had more years to do it. But anyway, that's irrelevant because, as I talked about recently, there was a report recently saying we are not in a position to be able to administer a vaccine if one became available. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the vials to put the vaccine in to send around. We do not have the stuff. The government have been told to stockpile a load of stuff that, lo and behold, guess what's happened? We didn't. If a vaccine actually became available in December, we have no capacity. And you think to yourself, okay, so how quickly would it take to get that capacity? The chief medical officer and other medical experts have been talking about the fact that because we are not ready, we could delay getting a vaccine out by 2 years. It's not something you can do in a few weeks. It's not something, it's not like the government can be told, oh, we could have a vaccine ready by December. Can you get everything ready to do that? We couldn't do that in the next few months. That is what my understanding is from reading very clear reports from medical experts. So zero chance of this vaccine even being widely distributed by Easter. Zero chance. If we had a vaccine right now, we do not have the time to get the infrastructure that we are currently lacking in place to deliver those vaccines. So there we go. Those are my thoughts there. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.